The first step you're going to need to do is download Smanager. So if you go to the website hondata.com/smanager, in the download section you can download the Smanager software here, and then, prove you're not a robot, download the Smanager software, and then it will download there. And then you also need to download the USB driver pack as well, which is just here. So you can see here I've got the Smanager software downloaded and also the drivers pack. So first I just double click on this. I want to make changes to my computer. Just click, accept the agreement, click, click, create shortcut, install. Finish. I won't launch straight away. And then same with the drivers. Yes. Install here. And that's done. So now that's installed, we've got a quick tab here, bottom. And that will start the Hondata Smanager software. And then we can start our journey. First thing you're going to need to do is load a base map. You press new calibration. You can see these are all the standard maps that are on there to begin with. You need to pick the one that's most suitable or most similar to your engine setup. So the one I used, because I've got a B18C4 with a turbo, so I'll just use this one. Click on that, press OK, and it loads the base map. Then we need to change the fuel injectors being used. Go to parameters up here, and then in fuel injectors, see the initial size is 440 for this map. So if we change that to 550, so I'm using RC 550s, then we need to get our dead times changed as well. So if you go to the internet and look at something like variable.net, scroll down to find the injectors you're needing. Here, these are the high impedance injectors, so these are the dead times we need here. So we can just simply pump these into here just by double clicking and using the data that we have there. If you scroll to the top of this page, you see the dead times are given for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 volts. Go back into Hondata, you punch these into the top here. You notice even if I put 11, it kind of puts a slightly lower value, but don't worry about that. And then you also notice that the dead times for 0 volts should be the same as for the lowest input here. So for 10 and 0 volts are the same. So then you're done, at least for the injectors. Then I need to input some information about the 4-bar map sensor I'm using. So about the best information I can get is this link here. Then if I scroll down a bit, you can see the scalar value and then the offset. So inside Hondata, I go to the map tab there, inside parameters, click on replacement and custom, and I can just input those two values of 838 and 31. Then in the MISC or miscellaneous tab up here, I already have disabled the ELD. I've also disabled the knock, but that's up to you. After that, I want to go to the closed loop settings, and if you're going to be doing some tuning, you want to have open loop and closed loop disabled. That's in my opinion. And then also check that the actual input you're using for the wideband data source is D14, or at least that's how I've had it wired. Going back to the tables, there's a few things I want to talk about to do with this map. First of all, if I go into options and settings, and then inside units, you'll see here I have got absolutes for the vacuum base units in an inch, and then I've got pressure units in atmospheric and PSI. Also I've got temperature in Celsius and air fuel ratio. That's just the settings I like to see. either way, once I'm inside here, then I also want to make sure I'm seeing the full 4-bar view. So if I go inside options and then show 4-bar, by default it will show you, I think, the NA tables, so you won't be seeing the full view. So you really want to go options, show 4-bar, or whatever size map center you have in there to show you the full view of the map. Then if you go into options and then sensors, there's two things you can do in here. One is change your units you're going to use, and two, changes your viewable range for displays. So if I change, for example, the IAT intake air temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit or back and forward, you can do that there. Then engine coolant temperature, you can do the same. I like them both in Celsius. And then also the MAP, which is the manifold pressure. I think by default that's 200 psi, but if you have it set to that value, then it will appear you have very small movements in the trace and data logging. So instead of set that to 20 psi, you can set any of these to how you like them. Looking at the map for fueling, in the non-VTEC side of the map, all looks very smooth for fueling, and then in VTEC again looks fairly sensible. Then if you go to the non-VTEC side and the VTEC side of the ignition map, it's quite strange here. Now, why that's been done I'm not sure, but I'm only interested really up to about 7 psi, which is my wastegate spring setting, but I wouldn't really want to experience a very advanced ignition as if I went past that. So instead, what you can do is you can choose to change these values to make them a bit more sensible. You can do that in lots of different ways, but one thing I'm going to do is just select a whole row here, Control C, select the row that's a bit of an anomaly, Control V, and then just push that whole thing down, and then at least that will be a bit more sensible. And in fact, it will probably even need to go down a bit further. And what you can do is you can just select however much of the map you want to affect, right click, adjust, and if I bring that down by another 10%, it'll do its job, and the other side of it as well, adjust, minus 10%, and you can see this is becoming a bit more sensible, and then I can do that in the same way here, so I can just I can select an area I want to copy, Control C and Control V, and just push that down, Control V, and I'll probably just do that for the rest of this map. I'm not planning on going up to 31 pounds, my engine definitely couldn't take it, but it's just you don't want to see something really random like this here, because it will just throw you off later. So that's looking at least a little bit more sensible, and then you can continue mapping. This is probably a good time to save the work you've done. So if you do File, Save As, I had called it Test before, but I'll call it something like B18 Turbo, and then the day's date. Then it's good to start from there. Now I'm inside my car. I'm going to switch to the second stage of the ignition. You can hear the fuel pump go. Then I'm going to place in the USB cable to the side of the laptop. You should be able to hear that it's being connected there. And then it's important to state that there's two ways of uploading this map. So you can go online here and press upload. That uploads the map you've just been playing with onto the ECU, or you can press this button here. And then the other thing I was going to mention is about downloads. You can download the map that's currently on the ECU, and that's a good way of checking that the upload has been successful too. I just really quickly wanted to touch on what each of these tables are telling you. So first of all, if you click up here, this is show you normal tables. So this is for the ignition timing and your fuel tables. So 1 and 2. So 1 is when you're not on VTEC, and 2 is your high cam, so your VTEC. The same for the fielding. The next thing is the lambda table. So this is actually showing the data logged lambda values as they come in. Then we have the estimated change in fuel required to reach the target lambda, which I'll talk about quite a bit in this video. And then your actual target value. So this is your RPM range, and this is your essentially load that's based on your map sensor. So particularly as you come into boost here, this boost region, so you see here I've actually got a more rich or lower value air to fuel ratio target than I do when I'm in high load but not in boost, or high load not in boost, and that's even more, it's actually leaner where we're actually at low load. So you can see you can set each of these points. So if I go into parameters and then in closed loop advanced, you can see the target lambda values is 14.7, 13.2. So if I go back into the tables, 14.7, 13.5, 12.5. So that's where these values can be changed. Now we can attempt to start the car. It's started. One really useful thing is up here, it's got an estimated amount of fuel that's required. So if we go online, you can see here actually we've got a little bit too much fuel, and that ties up with the lambda value I can see on my wideband here. If I blip the throttle a bit, you can see we're moving around in the table, and you can see that we're actually running rich in most of the areas apart from here where we need to add 2% of fuel. Now this only really makes sense when you do smooth progressions through the map, so don't worry too much about it yet. Before we go for a drive, it can be worth setting up the display, and here I've got things such as the RPM, the map pressure, the engine coolant temperature, intake air temperature, and things like the knock level and the air fuel ratio. It's very simple to set these all up. You can just go right click, new value, and it by default I think gives you the RPM, and right click, go to sensor, engine sensors, and change it to whatever you want, such as perhaps throttle position sensor. And then when you go online, you can see that it works if I put my foot to the floor. So we're going to upload that map to the ECU. Then we can go online. And you can see we already need to add a little bit of fuel here. So I'm going to go straight away and add 10% of fuel to here. And then I'm going to do Control L, maybe add 10% here as well. This is all very rough to begin with. Control L. So we're getting closer. Number 5. You can see that's how you go about making changes. So this is all just in the very low speed while I'm idling, and low load obviously as I'm idling as well for the engine. And each time if I want to reset this map here, this is the estimated amount of fuel I need to add, and it's important to make sure that you actually selected the fuel side, not the spark side. Otherwise it will start making changes on your spark rather than your fuel. So just make sure you've actually selected the fuel side of the map. And then what I'm going to do is, now that's uploaded, it's all live anyway, so it uploads automatically. I'm going to go for a bit of a drive, and let's have a look at this fuel table as it gets built. Now I've come to a rest. I can see I'm fairly lean in this band here as well, so I can just choose to select this band, and I'll put in perhaps 8%, and I'll place in here 8% as well, and then we will do a Control L. I'm still a little bit lean as well, to be fair, where I'm idling, so I'm just going to add in this area another 5 and do a Control L, and I'm getting much closer, so let's go for another drive. Let's have a look here. You can see I'm still a bit lean in this area, so I'm going to add about 10. I'm going to add about 4. Control L, and then I'll carry on. So I can still see I'm a bit lean in this area here. I can just select it up. That's probably about it. Let's add another 5% here. Control L. You get the picture. You just basically keep on driving until you're happy with the fuel map at least. And then also be a bit wary of areas whereby your map is a bit staggered. Say here, for example, it's a bit too close to the bars on there. So if I look at the 2D display, you can see here that it's almost crossing over. So you can finesse this as you go. Next thing I wanted to mention is about data logging. So you need to click the lightning button there to actually online, and then if you click this record button, you'll see this time will be going up, and that means you're actually data logging now. You can actually look at the display, or you can look at graph even, and you'll see your data coming in for different things, such as, for example, temp compensation or whatever else. But I think the display is quite interesting to look at this point, or even the tables that will be moving around. And what we'll do is we'll do a little data log now, and then we'll have a look once we've stopped at the data once it's been recorded. save these data logs, you can do one of two things: either exit the software and it'll automatically give you an option to save. If you go data log, save as, and if I just put the day's date, and then just put maybe an _1, as I just press save as in the data log options, that will save the last data log I took. Coming out the software, as I did after that, give you the option of saving the other remaining data logs that are not yet saved. So now looking at that data log I took, I just go data log, load, and then open up this one. You can see here, these are all the traces I've got. There's different drop downs. You can even make your own, which I won't really go into, but you can make whatever type of graph that you want. And then if you go here, you can zoom into different areas. So if I do a right click and then swipe the area, you can see here I can then have a bit of a close-up view, or if I want to go back to my full view, just right click, zoom full, it shows me the full view again. This cursor you can drag along with your left mouse. So if I want to have a look at, say for example, this bit, again I'll right click, hold, and then drag that area. And you can see here the different map pressures. I got to 4 psi here, 4.1 psi, about the top part of that. So I got to 4.6 psi maximally there. So it's just interesting to eventually look at your data. Also, you've got engine coolant temperature, never got above 89.1 degrees, which is another good thing. And then you can just look at whatever parts of the data you're really interested in.
Hope you found this video useful. It's part of a larger video series on building a turbo Civic. Have a look at the previous videos if you're interested. This is giving I hope you found this video useful. It's part of a larger video series on building a turbo Civic, and if you're interested in that, look at the previous videos. This video is only meant to be giving some information on how to go about tuning in Hondata. You look at other videos online that go into things in more depth, but now with the information that I've managed to gain through doing this myself, I've got a car that's running and driving, and it's good enough to at least drive it to the tuners to get it on the dyno. So that's what I'm going to be doing in future videos. Thank you.